here for today. So it's the Janqua TNI Transportation and Installation Work Package that we're going to be talking about today. And we're going to be talking about it from the certification point of view. I'll talk a bit about myself before we start. My name is Chuksoje, and I am the package manager for the transportation and installation scope on this project. By the way, let me just check. Can you guys hear me clearly?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You can
Anybody
hear.
who can,
It's okay.
is there anybody who cannot hear me? No? Okay. All right, so we'll proceed. So just a little bit about myself to give you some idea of where I'm coming from. I'm a naval architect and also used to be a civil engineer. So many years ago, I did work on geotechnics, some civil works. And once in a while, I still do those. But at the moment, I'm mainly focused on offshore structures, mainly floating structures as a naval architect. But as you can tell from my involvement in this project, I get involved with fixed structures as well from time to time. I used to work for NDMS a while ago, and I worked a lot with NS in Singapore. I did some things with I ran some projects that involved some works in Vietnam. I'm not sure if anybody remembers, any of you from Vietnam was involved in that, in the transportation of lots of vessels from Vietnam to Nigeria a few months ago. I was the manager for that project. I previously in my past, I've worked with Lloyd's Register as a naval architect focusing on hydrodynamics and mooring. I worked in oceaneering. Thank you. Doing structural integrity management for some FPSOs, and I did work as a marine surveyor for ABS. So that's a quick one about me. I think it might be, since there's not too many of us, it might be worthwhile going around and introducing ourselves, just saying a bit our names and a bit more about our background so that we can all understand where each other is coming from. So if that's okay with you, is that okay? Can we do that? Okay.
Yeah, I can
I'll
see
take
that.
it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I can
So-
eventually start. So I'm Rasmus Petersen, working from Hellerup in or Copenhagen in Denmark, and I'm the project manager for the more or less complete project of the Greater Changhua project with the Ørsted, and I will be going to Taiwan in November month, also to align on this part of the project. So nice to meet you all.
Okay. Okay, Maxim, can you over to you?
I worked for Germanische Lloyd office for about 10 years since it was opened in Moscow. And I just realized that I've been doing marine warranty survey work for wind industry for 20 years now.
Nice. Did you ever work with plumbing?
Yes, I was involved in project with him. Yes, yes, I was doing some some jobs. Yes, plumbing. Yes.
I did
I
a lot
was
of-
using his friends surveyors on my projects. I was sort of team leader of marine warranty department in Moscow, but it was in the beginning of 2000 from 2000 to 2010. Yes, and then I became a freelancer.
Yeah, okay, that's good. I was involved in Philanovsky and which other one?
Okay, I just left before that.
Okay, okay. All right.
And start to work to DMV directly on their projects.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Okay, shall we move on to Jack?
Hello guys, I enjoyed. I am engineer. I based in Dojo office. Yeah, nice to see you guys.
Very much, Jack. Can we go to Daniel?
Yeah, hello everyone. This is Daniel Ren. I'm working in China, and I have been since marine surveyor since 2007, and we here mainly focus on this oil gas industry, and yeah, any projects we can help here, you can contact me in China. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel.
Yeah.
Should we go to Suko? I think you're muted. You're muted. Can you unmute, Suko? You're muted. Your microphone is.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. My name is Sokobe, and I am, working in South Korea as marine warranty surveyor since, the 2020. And previously, actually, I was structural, engineer for 20 years in Samsung heavy industry and Hyundai heavy industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Suko. Andrea, can we move over to you? Or did I pronounce the name wrongly? Nguyen Tien Tan.
Yes, I am Thanh. I'm from Vietnam. I work as volunteer Marines in Vietnam from 2010. I work with some project in Vietnam only. For LOC, London Offshore, and ABL. And last from 2020, I work for DNV as freelancer.
Fantastic. Did you work on this project where we were transporting several vessels on top of the heavy lift vessel to Nigeria? Did you work on that project?
Yeah, I have done before at Fumi Port for DNV, I think.
Yes, for DNV, yeah, of course, DNV. That was 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, 2 years ago, Fumi Port. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I was a PM on that job. Nice to meet you again.
Thank you.
Okay, shall we go to Eric? I can't hear you. Can anybody hear Eric?
Yeah. Hello.
Eric, I can't hear you.
Hello. Are you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, my name is A Phu from Vietnam, and I'm working for the shipping marine and technical manager for the Nhật Việt transportation. And so far, and we joined the meeting. Say hello, everybody.
Hello. Thank you. Okay, let's.
Thank you,
Can we
thank
go back to? Thank you. Can we go back to Eric? Your mic is not working, Eric. We can't hear you. Or at least I can't hear you.
It seems like we cannot. Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Eric. Can we go to Rohit?
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Rohit, based in Taiwan, marine warranty surveyor on behalf of DNV Taiwan. I have been in Taiwan since early 2020, so about 4.5 years now, and mostly been involved with work in wind. Prior to that, was based in Singapore and doing more oil and gas projects.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rohit. Can we go to Rocky?
Yeah, good. Hi everyone. I'm Rocky. Working in DNV Singapore office. I'm handling all the MWS scope work for this project. I work as MWS since 2011, and before that, I was in T&I companies for oil and gas projects in around Southeast of Asia. Yeah.
Thanks, Rocky. Can we go over to Adam?
Yes, hello everybody. I hope you can hear me. So
Yes,
I'm I'm Adam, presently based in Europe. I spent in Taiwan all COVID time, so good 3 years. I was working for different farms in Taiwan as a marine warranty surveyor. As well, I participate in some renewable certification department. And yeah, and after the COVID, I moved back to Europe, and I'm sitting, and I expect to participate to join the Ørsted project, which present project. Yeah, I hope we can meet there. Okay.
Thank you very much, Adam. Can we move over to Devin?
I think Devin is not able to talk as he's traveling in a train, but he has put in his introduction in the chat.
Okay. Are you able to read it for us?
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
So he writes, "Hi, I'm Devin, a DNV employee as a local MWS surveyor and pipeline engineer, unable to talk now due to traveling on the high-speed rail train. After 5 o'clock Taiwan time, I could talk. Attend several offshore wind farm projects from time to time since the first offshore wind farm in Taiwan."
Thank you very much. So that's Devin. Okay. Can we move over to Chungun?
Okay. Hello everyone. I'm Chungun Cho.
Hello.
I'm working for Busan office in South Korea.
I joined the DNV 2010, and I worked in Singapore Peace until 2020. So now I'm taking TNI and MWS lead in South Korea. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And finally, CY.
Hi everyone, my name is Chun Yu. You can call me CY. So I'm together working in DNV Singapore office with Rocky. So Rocky is leading on the MWS engineering document review, and I'm supporting him as a deputy as well. So my experience is mostly on oil and gas TNI as a structural engineer, and in the past couple of years into marine warranty services.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Have
Thank
I
you.
missed anyone? I think we've all had our turns. All right, so at least that gives us a rough idea of where we are all coming from, so we understand ourselves. So I'll now go into sort of describe or give a short explanation about the project. But the whole essence of this meeting is essentially to talk about how certification, the requirements of certification, in addition, over and above what we would normally do for marine warranty survey, because the plan is for us to mobilize one surveyor, which would be one of you guys, to site to do the marine warranty scope, but in addition to that, to also do the certification scope, so that we don't have to mobilize 2 DNV surveyors on the same job. So that's the whole essence of this meeting. We're going to talk about what are those things that you need to take into consideration in addition to the usual marine warranty surveying things that you would normally do. And this is why it's important, or we had to, it was useful for us to go around and talk about our background. So we don't want to be talking about things that we already, that it's not, we already know or we are familiar with. What we're going to talk about is additional things. Now, it may well be that you already know some of these things because you're already working in some of these projects. But the whole point is that my understanding is that we are all marine warranty surveyors. Well, not we, apart from myself and Rasmus. But I mean, the rest of us in this meeting are marine warranty surveyors. We just want to make sure that we are all on the same page as regards what additional things are required from a certification point of view, so that when you go out to do your marine warranty surveying, you would also know what additional things you need to look out for to cover the certification scope. So that's the whole essence of this meeting. I will go through to describe the project, and then we would have time to have some discussions. I expect that you would have a lot of questions to make sure that the scope and what you need to do is very clear. So I will start by describing the project. I will talk about the additional qualification requirements that we need for qualified marine warranty surveyors to also do certification work. And then we'll go into the details of what actually needs to be done on site. We're not going to be talking about document review here. We're just going to be focusing on site service. So I'll start by talking about where we are. So the project, the wind farm that we're talking about, is in the Strait of Taiwan. That's over there. So everything is going to be focused there. Up there in Korea, we have some suction bucket jackets coming from the HSG yard there. Then those will be loaded out, transported to Taiwan, to Taichung, where it will be transshipped to the offshore site. We also have the PTSC facility in Vung Tau, where the balance of the SBJs, the suction buckets, will be coming from. So Korea and Vietnam are where our suction bucket jackets will come from. And then, of course, we've got Singapore, Batam, where the offshore substation topside jackets will be coming from. So just a summary, the site, as I said, is offshore Taiwan. We've got a set of SBJs coming from Vietnam and Korea. As I said earlier, we've got USS jacket and foundation coming from Batam and Singapore. Now, the aim of these surveys is to ensure, or not to ensure, but to assure that the structure's integrity, both during the short term while it's being handled, the load out and everything, and even when it's already installed, is not compromised in the process of handling it and transporting it. So basically, we are just interested in the integrity of the structure to make sure that nothing happens to the structure that will compromise its integrity in any way. So that's what we are, a simple way of describing what we're doing. The other, and this is the reason why we have this meeting, is that we are required to synergize MWS and renewable certification, which is why we're having this meeting. So usually MWS will talk a lot about construction or risk, issues related to operations and construction and all the other bits and pieces related to the operations, and reducing all those risks as much as reasonably possible. Whereas for us in renewable certification, we are essentially interested in the integrity of the structure itself. So as inputs to this process, there will be some open items from previous evaluation, certification, renewable certification or project certification evaluation modules during design, during manufacturing. There might be items that are open, and those items will be input into the survey. So I don't know, something happened during the manufacturing to something somewhere, and we need to be careful about that during the transportation. That will feed into the survey, and hopefully that will be included in the work pack that will be issued to you. That okay, when you go to site, please look out for this and that and that. And then of course there'll be the procedures and the drawings, which usually you normally have as marine warranty surveyors, and you follow those. For deliverables, essentially, it will be the survey report. I've given a template to Rocky, and hopefully we'll share that with you at some point. And that will be you just reporting essentially, what you've observed as regards the structural integrity, so positive and negative. So if they've done something well, you say they've done something well. If they've done something wrong, you say they've done something wrong. And you conclude by saying that, okay, you didn't see anything that you think might compromise the integrity of the structure, or you saw something and these are the details of what you saw that you think might compromise the integrity of the structure. And of course, while you're on site, you can also have discussions with people there to make sure that, okay, you're doing something wrong. Please, can you amend this to make sure that we don't break the structure, we don't damage the structure. So simple. Then of course, there'll be reports to Rocky. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to schedule this, but there'll be reports, daily reports to either myself or Rocky, or probably to Rocky. Or we'll confirm that eventually. And of course, there's the final evaluation report, which you probably don't need to bother with that yourself, because that will probably be myself and Rocky dealing with those. So what you really need to bother yourself with is the survey report and your daily reports, just so that we know what's going on. So an overview of project certification, just to give you some context to what we're doing. Some of you might know about this, or you might not, but just so that we're all on the same page. There are all kinds of stages and all kinds of certificates or statements of compliance, as we call it, or in some places, conformity statements, depending on which scheme I'm using. There's concept, there's design, manufacturing, transport, operation, and all that. But these are various stages of the project. But what we are really concerned here is transportation and installation. And that includes substation and the turbine, both the foundation of the turbine. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the turbine itself, the RNA, the blades, and all that, but that's a different topic. But at the moment, we are concerned about the foundation, so the suction bucket jackets and their transportation from Vietnam and Korea and installation in Taiwan. So yeah, so that gives you some sort of context, and this is for the DNV SC0190 scheme. It's the same thing, essentially similar. You don't need to bother yourself with this. There are different schemes, but yeah, for as far as for survey, I would say it's essentially the same. No need to bother yourself with different schemes. Of course, the overall governing standard here is this CNS 15176. This we are in Taiwan. But as I said, essentially, this is similar to our SC073. So again, you don't need to bother yourself about that. In terms of our own technical standards covering this, is the DNV ST0054. That's the certification standard for transition installation. But if you're familiar with DNV ST N001, well, you should all be familiar with N001. It's more or less, again, for what we are talking about here, it's more or less similar. Of course, the additional things that we need to talk about for certifications, we'll talk about that in this presentation. And then, of course, you've got some Ørsted standards. Yeah. So visually, you need to forgive me for my bad graphics because I just put this together 2 days ago. I didn't have time to make a fancy presentation, so please forgive me if it's everything. Yeah, so this is just to describe what the MWS would normally do. Familiar with. And thank you, Rasmus, for advising this. So the MWS will be looking at the processes and the equipment, involved in these operations. So, for example, in this case, you have the badges, this badge or construction vessel, whatever it is. You have the crane. I think this is a crane badge, I guess, or whatever it is. Anyway, you have the crane, you have the rigging, you have the grillage and tonnage or whatever it is down there. All these things that are used, then the procedures, the people involved, all these processes and equipment that are used to handle these the assets is what the marine warranty surveyor will be looking at and keen about. Of course, you'd also probably be concerned about the structure itself, but not in as much detail as the certification surveyor will be concerned about. So for the renewable certification or project certification, let's just keep it simple and call it certification. We are not so much bothered about all this ancillaries, about badge, about the crane, about riggings. We're not so much bothered. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't need to look at it, but in this special case, because DNV is doing the MWS and renewable certification and the project certification, so we assume that the marine warranty surveyor has already taken care of all these other ancillaries, and we're only focused for certification on the asset that's being loaded out or being installed. If it were not so, if DNV was not involved in marine warranty surveying, then renewable certification or project certification might take a little more interest in these other ancillaries covered by MWS. But in this case, they are marine warranty surveyor and certification surveyor. It's all one person. So the focus really be on the integrity of the structure of the asset. Now, there's an issue then about what's the interface, which is the lift point. Well, I would just say that, that's a little bit of overlap in some. I understand that some marine warranty surveyors don't bother with the lift points, but some do. And again, so that's one thing, one of the things that arises, who's responsible for that. But in the end, is the same person who's going to be marine warranty surveyor and certification surveyor. So in our case, that doesn't really matter. We need to be responsible for everything. But I would say that the lift point should be looked at by certification surveyor, whether the marine warranty surveyor looks at it or not. So essentially, that's a rough description of the difference. I have another presentation that goes into a bit more detail, and depending on how we go on this one, I might present that one or I might not. If this one will suffice, then I won't go into that other presentation. So let's talk about surveyor qualification. So the service is a regulated service. So there's a formal process, qualification procedure to be able to do renewable certification work. First is the WRED course, doing renewable certification every day. I think some of you, if not even all of us, might have done the online version of this course. There's a face-to-face one coming up on the 25th of January, I think. I was going to put a link to the course, but I then realized that the link I will give you would be to my own my learning account. So I just decided that I would place the general my learning website or site here. But when you get to that site, you can search for We Read course, and then you should be able to get it. I think Rocky, you've done that course, and a few other guys have done it already online. Okay, so that's the first one. The next one is the training plan. So to get officially qualified to do this renewables project certification work, you need to get officially qualified in the renewable certification matrix. Of course, there's a separate one for people who are not in renewable certification like yourself, and then there's one for people who are in renewable certification like myself. So we'll be dealing with the non-RC qualification matrix. But essentially, you use the same form or training plan or form. You fill out the form with details of your experience and qualification and kinds of things. And then you submit it, and you fill it with your line manager, and then you submit it through your line manager. Your line manager will pass it to the person responsible in renewable certification. And if in doubt, myself or Rasmus, you can contact myself or Rasmus, and we can tell you how to submit it. We will, in the next slide, I'll show you a sample form, which is the one I filled some time ago for myself. Although the template might be outdated now, but essentially the content will be useful. And then there's the confirmation to comply with ISO IEC 17065. So there's a form you fill, just to confirm that you comply with these requirements. Again, if you have not filled that form, please let us know, myself or Rocky or Rasmus, and we can arrange to send you that form to fill. So all these things are required. The We Read course, this confirmation of ISO IEC, this form. It's all required, as they are all elements in this training plan. They are all items that you need to tick off in the training plan. And of course, there's a requirement for some sort of offshore certificates, GWO, yet. So at the moment, some jobs require some of the elements of the work require GWO. Some elements don't. So for example, for loadout, we don't need GWO. But for installation, we might be needing GWO. So for anybody who's involved in installation, we'll have to have a special discussion. But I think most of you will be involved in the loadout from Vietnam and Korea. So you won't need to bother about this. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the training form. So just going to open up this sample training form just to run through the elements in it. And let me know when if you can see. So there are different training with the aim to be qualified for, the different competency elements. So what we are concerned about is element O, which is transportation and installation surveillance. That's what we are interested here. So you put your name in, you put what you want to be qualified for, which is this one. Then you have all these general, is it wind, is it marine, solar? Of course, here we're interested in wind. Talks about what courses and workshops you've attended, which is where the We in Renewable Everyday, the WeRed course comes to. You can say, okay, I've attended the WeRed course. Yeah, field work, your experience working on site and surveys, and then of course various elements of what you've done in the past. PM, you don't need to bother yourself with the PM side of, because obviously you're not doing PM, you're not working with Oracle or any of these things, so you don't bother yourself with this. Training plans for non-RC resource. Okay, so I talked about signing that form to comply. So that's what you do. You sign that IEC 17065 form. Training plans for well, okay, so this is the training plan. Of course, the evaluation and documentation according to, so basically, for you probably have your normal documentation, your contract, your CV, and various other things as if you're a freelancer, even if you are a staff, you would have all those things available, and then we need to find a way to access it. Or if you can access it, you need to make it available in support of this application.
Sorry, Chooks. Regarding the item G, can you provide the DMSG-14 series to us?
Yeah, so that,
Yeah.
okay, we can, yeah, but essentially
it should also
it's
be
just about,
available from the intranet. At least for
yeah,
DNV employees, it should be available from the DMS system in the intranet.
yeah, but I think essentially this is just to make sure that it's mostly about the due diligence for, yeah, doing all this background, call it checks or qualifications that you need to work for DNV, that you have those already. And if you don't have it, to provide it. So, but yeah, you can just go to the site and look for the DMSG-14, but I can also send you, if you remind me later, Rocky, and before it and send it to you, or at least the link to it. So going back to the specific details of what exactly is required. So there's coordination and assessment. So you don't really need to bother yourself too much about this. What we should be concerned about is on-site inspections, because that's what we are dealing with here. So under on-site inspections, you've got talks about relevant technical education and professional background, you know, mechanical engineer and naval architect, whatever training, you know, yeah. HSC requirements, yeah. You've done some working on high courses. If your work involves fine space, you've done confined space, this sort of things. So, but the key one here is working at height training. Usually, you need to provide proof that you've gotten that, and then of course you need to also show that show what experience you have that qualifies you to do this sort of work. So remember, this is a training plan. The whole idea is that if you don't have the experience, then you put down as an objective here to get experience. But I think that we're all quite experienced in MWS, and we would have to find a way to, use that experience or to make that experience count towards your certification. So I think at this point, I would like to ask Rasmus about, do you have any ideas on how we can, structure MWS experience in this training plan to be able to pass it off or make it acceptable as valid experience for certification, for being qualified for certification? Or
Yeah,
do we just write it the way? Sorry, go on.
Sorry. Yeah, in general, I would recommend that everyone submits their most recent edition of their CVs, because that's where it's stated what kind of experience you have from previously, and then then eventually in the training form pick out the ones that you think is mostly related to or that could be related to the wind industry basically, and then list it shortly in the training form as well. So that's usually how it's done. So and then of course when you have participated in this Wired course, then also the certificate from the Wired course should be attached together with the training form.
Yeah, so for example, in my own training plan, I've said that with regard to general wind course, I've done a degree in, what did I say, in ocean engineering, and then I've got, this year's float instructor, verification, certification, and MWS for marine transport and installation. And then I said, C attached CV and DMV competency records. So this is what I did. I attached my CV and my DMV competency records. So if you've got one of those, that would be very helpful. And then what I did was to highlight the items in my competency record that are relevant for this application that I made. So if you should have this DMV competency record from your partner. I think you can get it from partner. Then you can highlight elements there. Maybe you're qualified for other things previously that are related to what we are doing here. You can highlight those. And of course, your current CV, as Rasmus said. And then you give a very rough summary of what that relevant experience is here. And then here it talks about RC service costs, which is essentially, I said, I participated in the WIRED course on October last year. So you say the same thing, you did your WIRED course on this and that day. Yeah. It's amazing. It's exactly 1 year ago I did this course. Interesting. Okay. So that's that. When you
maybe a short thing here as well. I can see that Bangcheng also joined the call. So Bangcheng is our colleague from RC, located in Taipei as well. And Bangcheng is also qualified for TNI. So do you have any inputs here as well, Bangcheng, for the training form?
So far, no. I think Chuck has covered everything. So most important thing is that we need to cover the HSE part, and for the relevant technical part, I think everyone here has a strong background, so I will not worry about this. Yeah, that's all.
Okay,
One thing maybe, I think for the medical things, we always need like a OGUK things, but I think everyone aware about this. So yeah, that's it.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. But please, Rasmus and Banshan, feel free to jump in and say something. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free. Of course, at the end, there will be room for question. But if you have a pressing question that cannot wait, just feel free to shout it out. And so here it talks about coordination and assessment. Okay, you might not need to bother too much about this. I feel this in because I was involved in project management and as well as document reviews. So I said, you know, I've assessed documents, manuals, meta statement procedures, and all that. And I talked about the standards that I'm familiar with. But I think in terms of standard, it will be worthwhile that you include standards that you're familiar with here, because it's also applicable for surveys, because your surveys need to be guided by certain standards and documents, even if you are not doing document reviews. Of course, most of the standards will be, requirements of standard will be addressed when you are reviewing the procedures and the method statements and all that. And by the time it gets to your turn to utilize those. But if you're familiar with any of these RC standards or SEs, you should put it here. And of course, you should put your NST N001 as well. Yeah. Scope of document assessment. Yeah, I said you don't need to bother yourself about this because this is for document review. Here it talks about interfaces to concrete structures, electrical systems, type certificates, site-specific load assumptions. So for me, the highlighted ones in yellow are the components that I've applied for. So you don't need to bother yourself with this electrical part because we're not dealing with cables. So here, I talked about scar protection. We said that scar protection is not part of the MWS. It's not going to be part of the MWS scope, but it's going to be part of a certification scope. However, we are going to do the evaluation based on as built surveys. So from the survey point of view, I guess all you will need to do there will just be maybe to get the as left surveys. But they might send this, because it's a document, they probably send it to us to review in the office anyway. But if I were on site, I would want to see what they are doing also, just to make sure that, you know, this is what they are sending to the office is exactly what was generated on site. So if you have scar protection experience, please put it there. Of course, if you don't have it, that's fine. You can leave it out. But if you know it, you know a bit about scar protection, about rock dumping, about these sort of things, you can put something there. Yeah, type certificates for wind turbines. Yeah, so if you've been involved in this sort of thing before, you know, during loadouts or whatever, you've asked or you've seen the certificates before loadout or something like that, you are familiar with this, you can put that as well. Site-specific load assumptions, yeah, this sort of things I don't think you need to bother too much. But I mean, if you have experience in all these things, just put them there as much as possible. Put them in. And this is by all means not exhaustive. If you have other things that are not listed here that are relevant, please include them here, and then put a note as to how you gained that experience here. I'm assuming that we have the experience already. Usually, this training plan assumes that you don't have the experience and you are going to get the experience. So you put how you aim to get the experience here. But if you have the experience already, then you just put it here that I have this experience already, and this is how I gained the experience. And we come to this section of on-site inspections. So these are the more practical aspects and details. We talked about relevant education and professional background. Again, for me, I said I have a degree in industrial engineering and I've been working in NDMS. You can put something similar and you put the CV, SSC, my CV that is attached. I talked about HSC requirements according to DMSC. So I said that I'm familiar with, there's a safety handbook, which I think we should all be familiar with, the DNV safety handbook. I mean, usually put it in the work pack for surveyors going off to sites. So you've been going to sites all this while, I'm sure you'll be familiar with this. So you include that. Yeah, and say that you've been using that for at least the projects where you applied that safety handbook in. So basically, just the projects you've been, a few projects that you attended, put it there, show that you have just the experience. And then working at high training, which is what I was talking about. So whether it's the standalone one or the one in GWO, whichever one, you just include it here. Then, as I said, any other experience that's relevant for this sort of work that we're going to do, that's not listed here, you put it here. Remember, this is my own form. Your experience is probably different from mine, and there are things that you have that I don't have here. So those that are relevant to the scope, you put them in here. As we proceed, you understand more. I will speak more about the scope and things that are related to the scope that we discussed today. You should include them here. You should have them. And then the other thing is, even if you don't have them, then it's an opportunity for you to say, okay, I want to get this experience. So you include it in that plan. Instead of saying, I have this experience already, you can say that, okay, I'm going to get this experience. So that's a plan. And then you arrange with your line manager to make sure that you get that experience. Once you get that experience, you can update the form to say you have this experience and get it signed off.
Yeah. I would also recommend you to put in this this particular call that we're having today into your training form, because then you can basically refer to this this briefing that we have performed today.
Yes, yeah, I guess that would be also helpful.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that we'll just take a very quick comfort break before we, so give room for questions. After questions, then we'll take a short comfort break and reconvene in less than 5 minutes to continue with the actual description of the work. So at this point, is there any questions?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask, you was mentioning about the standards, what we have to use during this surveys or inspection, if we will attend to. And you mentioned about the, yes, Ørsted technical minimum standards for the foundation and substation. How we can get this publication, how we can get this standard to be familiar with?
Yeah, so at this stage, you don't need to bother yourself too much about this Ørsted one at this stage. We would, extract what is important, what is needed, and include it in the work pack. Yeah, but if there's a need, we can pass it to you on later, because we don't want to bother you too much with giving you a whole big standard.
This is not bothering. If the client is following some standards, it will be good to have idea what standards. And then it's, of course, if it's a very big one and contain a massive of information, it's no need to be familiar with all of them, but at least in the scope what it's touching our business, it will be good to have it. Okay, if we don't have it right now, so I will appreciate if we can get it in case of, if it will be necessary, and you will decide as the managers to provide it to us, then it will be just to not forget about that.
Yeah, okay, that's noted. So we'll try to extract the relevant elements included in the work pack to start with, but yeah, if somebody like you want to know a bit more, yeah, we can find a way to pass this across to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Rohit. Sorry, Rohit raised his hand first. Sorry.
Hi, sorry, just a quick one. On your previous slide, you had written about a work at heights training requirement. Actually, GWO, one of the modules of GWO is actually work at height. So if you actually have the full module, you actually have the work at height training, or do you need an additional separate work at height training?
No, this is what I said earlier, that you can have a standalone work at height, or you can have the one that's included in GWO. Anyone is fine.
Okay, thank you.
The important thing is that you have that competence.
Yeah.
Okay, back to Martin.
May I suggest something? Doing this work, we'll have to do two reports, one MWS and the other one is certification. And those two reports will interlap in a big way. Will it be possible to make a form and so we could use do one report only? I mean, it was not a problem for many years, but this year in Taiwan, the weather was excellent, and for a few months we had like 20 hours walk without stop. Usually when we have a period of good weather and bad weather, then you can like follow up with TNI reports, which we usually do. We do like a report for MWS and another one TNI for the certification department. But this year it was a little bit it was taking time from the time which left to sleep, and this year it was not enough. If
Okay,
you,
so
if you
Max,
see what I mean.
Are you talking about the daily progress report or
Yes.
the final?
Yeah,
survey
the
report?
daily progress report. Yes.
Okay. Before I say what I have in mind,
I know that it's not very it's a different way, and it's not sort of from point of management, it's not logical, but from the point of view of the surveyors on site, it will be logical, and it will take a little bit of pressure and give more time to sleep if the weather will be as good as this year.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question, Maxim. I would say in general, of course, we shouldn't like do double work. So we should at least try to minimize like the overlaps between the MWS reporting and the certification reporting. I'm not totally on top of how the MWS reporting is looking like, but usually for the certification part, of course you can start preparing the survey report while you are on site, but else it's normally a task that is done when you're back onshore again.
Okay.
And then yeah. So what the setup of the report is basically there is a general part, and in that general part there will be a chapter for each visit that we are performing. So we'll use the same report and then update with a new chapter each time we have performed a visit, no matter if it's loadout or if it's offshore installation, basically. And then as an appendix, we have the list of documents that we have reviewed, and then a table of eventually comments that we have from our visit or from the document reviews. So that's it shouldn't take too long, at least, to do the reporting. And of course, Chooks and Bangcheng and I can definitely support in preparing the reports as well. I think the setup will also be that one of you, MWS surveyors, you prepare the report, and then somebody from RC will then verify the report, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, but I think that this is why I asked at the beginning to be sure what Maximo was talking about. Whether I think Maximo was talking about the daily progress report. Am I correct?
Yes. And basically, basically, our marine warranty report contains the information about the progress of the work, the weather conditions, what has been discussed at the daily meeting, and of course, if something is wrong, well, with the item, or it is also goes. As a sort of as a comment, as a point of concern, and basically this point of concern will be a matter which is important for the certification, but also information about the whether you see these reports are very much interlinked, and if we could do one report and just like sort of put it all together, all the information, it will be much easier. And it is very common for marine warranty surveyors to do such reports, and they just like can be used as a certification department report as well.
Right. So if you look at what I wrote earlier, it's not very different from what you're saying. This is what I'm proposing, and subject to what CY is going to say now and what Rocky is going to say. But what I expect as a practical way is for you to send your normal DPRs to Rocky or CY, and they will look through it. And if there's anything relevant for RC, then CY or Rocky can inform me of those. That's the way I'm proposing. But of course, we need to hear what CY and Rocky have to say. CY.
Yes, Chooks. So regarding the daily report, so the question is whether are they supposed to submit 2 reports or just one combined report? I think we have to we need to take it offline and check out the requirements, because for MWS reporting, it may have to go through the underwriter's requirements as well. So if it's combined report and certain information may not be relevant, and again, RC might have information that that MWS has that's not relevant as well. So if they are mutually not relevant, so we may have to end up with 2 reports. But it's not something we can conclude now. But we need to check out again what are the specific requirements. Or we could make it in a simple, well, we can make a report with certain appendix for RC specific topics as well. And when doing submission, it can be split.
Well, from a practical point of view, okay, Robert.
Sorry, from my point of view, for RC and MWS is for different insurance purpose. RC is for the assess and MWS is for the operations. And so because of the different purpose of the survey, the report should be separate. one MWS and one RC.
Before we go too far, Rocky, before we go too far, can we make a distinction between the daily progress report and the final survey report? There are two different reports. We're talking about the daily progress report here.
For MWS, daily report is not compulsory, but most of the client, they ask MWS to send the daily report. But for RC, I'm not sure.
Yes, so
probably maybe daily report is only request by company, but it's not request by the insurance company, I guess.
So this
similar with MWS.
Yes. So my understanding that is similar. The daily progress report is not something we have to submit to the client. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Rasmus. My understanding is that it's not a contractual obligation. Well, it's hard to talk about what's in the contract now, Rasmus.
Yeah,
But-
again, that's I'm not on top of the contract with the marine warranty surveillance. I guess, yeah, of course, Rocky and CY, they are on top of this. What you need to deliver to the
Ørsted
client.
request daily report.
Yeah.
For MWS, I'm very sure this already stay in the contract.
Yeah. So daily progress reports.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So I
daily
understand
basis.
it will be a daily marine warranty report, and then the certification report will be after the mission or some part of the. Okay, yeah, good
Exactly.
enough. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so to finalize it, I think a practical way to go about it, and here I'm talking about the daily progress report. Let's make that clear. I'm talking about the daily progress report.
Okay.
I think we should just issue one report, but inside that report, it should cover all the MWS items. And then in addition to the MWS items, you can make some observations about the RC items. Because really, from a practical point of view, it's essentially going to be similar or the same thing. Because if as a marine warranty surveyor, you find that there's going to be a problem with the integrity of the structure, I expect that you would make a comment about it.
Of course, it's the breach of one of the procedures, and it will go straight into the report. Yes, sure.
Exactly, and so what I'm saying is that when you make that sort of report, send it to the MWS coordinator, which is Rocky. I'm going, as CY said, we'll discuss this to finalize it. But what I expect to be done will be send it to Rocky. Rocky will look through it, and if there's anything that's related to the RC or structural integrity of the structure, there's any observation, any problem, he will just let me know and say, Chooks, this bracket is broken off, or something like that. That will get involved. I think that's a more practical way to handle it instead of writing to different reports. Except, of course, we see the contract, the renewable certification, the PC, the project certification contract, and they ask specifically for this. And even if it's asked for that, we might just send the same report to them. But at this stage, let's just agree that you would issue one report, daily report, I mean. When it comes to the final report, of course, it will be two separate reports. When it comes to the final one.
Okay.
But for the daily report, let's keep it one. I'll have a chat with Rocky and see what.
Okay.
About the fine details.
Thank you. I just had a wrong impression that we'll be making two separate reports every day, and yeah, if not, then yeah, I'm happy. Yeah, cheers.
Okay. Any other question before we take our 1 or 2 minutes break just to stretch? For those of us who might need to stretch their waist and their legs and get the blood flowing a bit more. Any other question? Atan, do you have a question? No? Okay. All right. So let's let's get back in 5 minutes. So basically 10 to the top of the hour. Okay. Just make sure you stretch your legs and your body. Hello, everyone.
Hi again.
Okay. So perhaps we can start. Or I should say restart. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, let's start with this one. Right, so just as a way of connecting what we discussed previously with what we are going to discuss next, I'm going to bore us again with the difference, the relationship between the difference between TNI, surveillance, certification, and MWS. This is something I got recently from a colleague, and I just managed to include it in this presentation a few seconds ago. So permit me if I'm not explaining it well, but of course we've talked about the differences previously, but this is just another way of explaining those differences. So MWS looks like the fastenings, link shackles, installation aids, looks at the vessel, takes all the underwriter for the construction or risk, the car insurance on the writer requirements. But once the job is done, the MWS is done. So the MWS will not take responsibility for the place condition. So I like to say the MWS doesn't care what happens once they demob. But for RC, when we demob from the offshore site, in fact our responsibility is just beginning at that point. So that's one of the key differences between MWS and TNI. So for the certification, for certification surveillance, with again assurance of structural integrity, which is what we talked about before, throughout the transportation and installation process. Yeah, so part of that means you have to investigate damages, investigate deviations that influence the structural integrity of the asset. So the key word there is anything that affects the structural integrity of the asset. And you can even expand it beyond that, depending on the scope we have on the project, to not just structural integrity, but just general integrity of the asset. But in this occasion, I think we are mostly interested in structural integrity. But sometimes there are other things that are not structural that we need to ensure their integrity. But for this particular case, let's focus on structural integrity for now. Yeah, okay, building permits, local regulations. So this is talking about the context. While MWS is required by the car insurance and the writers, the certification surveillance is a result of other requirements related to local regulations and permits and legislation and all sort of things. So they come from different angles. Yeah, so the surveillance for certification, a lot of it has to also do with the as-built condition, which is a key difference. So whereas a minor warranty surveyor might not necessarily be too interested in the as-built, call it report, for us in certification, that is the key element. So checking that things are as they say they are in the as-built, and that's also the same as what they have in the procedure. So if they say that I don't know, the levels or the tilt tolerance for the jacket angle is, I don't know, 5%, 10%. When they install it, we need to check that indeed it's within that degrees, sorry, not percent, degree, 5 degrees. We need to check that it's within that 5 degrees on site. And then make sure that when they produce the as-built drawing or as-built report or however they call it, that angle is the same as what we observed on site. So it could be by the surveyor checking the as-built reports draft on site, or simply just including it in your report, so that when we receive your report, we compare what you have in your report with what is stated in the as-built documentation. And of course, also as it's in the procedure, which already should have been checked to be consistent with the actual design. So we follow the loop all the way to the end of installation. Yeah, so these are just contexts, who requires it. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's the main difference. So let's go into the actual thing that we're talking about today. So we said we have these SBJs coming from PTSC in Songdong. Sorry, I'm mixing them up. From Vantao. And the way it's structured is there'll be 9 trips, but out of those 9 trips, we'll be attending only 3 trips. And at the moment, it's expected that each of those trips will be one. So each of those attendances. So when I say trips, I mean voyage, sail away. So there'll be 9 sail aways with SBJs, and we'll be attending only 3 of those. And then for each of those 3 attendances, it's expected to be a 1-day attendance at the moment. Because we all know how these things work. Things change a lot. And the same thing is going to happen.
Sorry, Chooks. I just want to clarify with all the people here. Regarding the loadout and the sail away for MWS scope of work, only taking care 2 trips at the PTSC and the 2 trips at the Shandong HSC. 1 time lesser than RC requirement.
Yes. So again, that's a good example of how things are not exactly the same, but similar, but not exactly the same. So yes, you go there on 2 occasions as MWS and certification surveyor, and then on the final occasion, you'll be going there simply as certification surveyor. But again, I imagine that in practice, what you'll be looking at is probably going to be the same things anyway, mostly the same. Yeah. So there'll be 10 trips from Shandong, but we are attending 3. Again, it's expected that each of those attendances will be 1 Monday. But again, things can change. But just be aware that that's the budget or the plan for now. So that's transportation loadout of the SBJs and transportation, all the villages. We need to check the lifting. So how is it going to be loaded out? It's going to be loaded out on trailers, brought from wherever it's stored to the quayside. And then, of course, you've got the vessel and then rolled on onto the vessel. So when you get the procedure, load out procedure, you see the details. But essentially, this is a summary of how it's going to be loaded out by SPMT. And of course, I'm sure you're familiar with this sort of thing and all the things you need to check from an MWS point of view. But from
maybe just
Sorry?
one thing here also in regards of the documentation. We have already been conducting document reviews or documentation reviews in advance of the actual execution of the work. So these documents that that you'll get as a package before your first attendance will be for information, basically in this case, because they should also, or they should have been reviewed already before the first visit. At least most of it should be. Yeah.
Yes. So the bottom line is we don't expect you to be reviewing the documents. We just give it to you so that you use it as a reference for what's going on. So from a marine warranty point of view, I'm sure you're familiar with this sort of operation and all the things you need to check. Rocky has and CY have done a lot of work checking all these things, the link bridge, details of the trailers, all kinds of things. So I'm not going to bother you with all that. But from a certification point of view, we're interested in the integrity of the structure. And one of the key things we'll check from a structural integrity point of view is how the suction bucket is sitting on the grillage, and because that affects the stresses on the call it the skirts of the suction bucket. And if it's not, so they've done a lot of analysis to demonstrate that the stresses are acceptable. Of course, just for your information, the initial assessment, general assessment failed, but they did a more detailed assessment that proved that it just passed. So when you have the kind of situation, that's the more reason why we need to be even more careful about that, because that assessment depends on the way it's arranged. So if there's any departure from the arrangement, how the cans are sitting on the grillage, it might, who knows, it might change the whole stress analysis that they've done, and there might be damage to the skirt. So one of the things we check is that it's sitting on the grillage exactly the way it says it should be sitting on the drawing. And then, of course, we check that it's loaded out. And I mean how it's sitting on the SPMT as well as on the vessel. It's exactly the same as it's on the drawing. I think that's the key thing we need to be, from a structural integrity point of view, or we need to be concerned there. So that's for the SBJs, the loadout of the SBJs. Let's look at the loading out of the jackets. The jacket is from Batam. Yeah, from Batam. Yeah, maybe there's not a lot to talk about here. Maybe myself and Rocky, we can discuss this in detail later. But anyway, yeah, it's going to be similarly rolled on. So again, you need to be checking all these sort of details, and just like for the SBJ, make sure that it's sitting exactly how it's supposed to be sitting. It's not tilted to it's not tilted to one side. It's, you know, everything is the way it's supposed to be, such that there'll be no overstress in one area of the structure. It's exactly the way it was designed to be. Then once it's loaded on, also we need to make a good round check to make sure that in the process of transferring it onto the vessel, there has been no damage or anything to the structure. So those are the simple things that we want to look at, which many marine warranty surveyors will look at anyway, even though some marine warranty surveyors might not be too interested in such things. But generally, I remember from experience, I certainly as a marine warranty surveyor would look at those.
Maybe also to add, this jacket is, of course, as you might have noticed, different from the one, or the setup of the jacket for the turbines. So this is a 4-legged jacket, and with the basically holes for the piles in the corners, in comparing to the other one where it's buckets, and it's a 3-legged jacket, the one for the turbines. So
so that's something also to be careful about, which again, I imagine that marine warranty surveying will look at it, you see that this is sort of articulated, but in this case, it is not. The legs are independent, 1, 2, 3, 4. So leveling and coordination of those would have to be, checked. Which again, as I keep going back to this saying, MWS would usually look at those as well. But I'm just saying it from the point of view of how that will impact the structural integrity, the integrity of the structure. Because if the trailer, the wheels are not coordinated, and you can imagine what's going to happen. Or the levels are, here and over there, and so that's going to, even if the jacket does not topple over, some kind of tilt can affect the integrity of the structure. I think if I remember correctly, I think it's allowed for up to, maybe is it 5 degrees or so, or something like that. So I can't remember exactly, but it's in the procedure. So if it goes beyond that, then we have a big problem. The integrity of the structure, the diagonals might start to snap. I don't know, who knows? But anyway, that's the whole point of making sure that these things are coordinated and the way it says it should be in the procedure. So this is for the jacket, OSS jacket. So let's go to the piles. So the piles, like Rasmus said, are going to go through all the slots, or rather than this, well, it depends on how you look at it, go through this slots. So how are they going to be loaded out? We're going to be using crawler cranes, tandem like that, and move it from wherever it is, bring it here. So again, coordination is important, but of course, I'm not too bothered about the integrity of the pile, although the span, support span also is to be taken into consideration. I don't expect that to be a huge problem, but from a theoretical point of view, of course, the more the span in reality is more than the span assumed in design. Of course, you get more stresses. So these are the things we need to be checking, that the span is support span exactly the way it says it should be. Yeah, and then both in terms of lifting it and in terms of stowing it on the vessel, the grillage support. So that's the piles. Then we'll come to the top side. Yeah, so did I mention that we expect 2 days? How we're allowed half a day for travel and 2 Mondays loading out and sail away of the jacket. But actually, it's not just the jacket, so the jacket and the parts. Maybe it's on 1 day, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to the sequence, but 2 days allowed for those. So similar for the top side, the same thing. 2 days, half a day travel. Again, it's going to be done by 15. One area to be careful about would be the points. Yeah, I would generally just making sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be, procedure and in the drawings, because drawings and the procedures have been checked. It's expected that if everything is done according to procedure and as per drawings and design, then we shouldn't have a problem. So the major thing should check in is for deviations from those. Because any deviation might result in adverse effect. Of course, some deviations might not have adverse effect, but that requires assessment. So anything that deviates, we need to let coordinators, myself and Rocky know. Then we can go and check and see if, okay, is this going to be positive or negative effect? Then can say, okay, it's acceptable or not. So part of that would be that they have to raise NCRs or MOCs or whatever it is that they're going to be calling it. Yeah. So now we've loaded them out. We've transported the SBJs. We said when we transport them from Korea and from Vietnam, we are going to discharge them in Taichung. So all the 66 SBJs will be discharged at Taichung. And then when we are ready to install them, we are going to attend 6 of those voyages. So, and this will be for our guys in Taiwan. To be loaded out, taken to site, and installed. For the loadout, so expect 1 day, go to site and install again 1 day. These are theoretical budget, hour or Monday budgets. It can change in reality, as you know. But just to give you an indication, that's what's going to be. So when those get to site, they're installed, and then of course 6 of those voyages, those trips is what we're going to attend. Then for the installation, as I said, there'll be 6 of those for the SBJs, 6 loadout, 6 installation, because 6 voyages. But of course, for the jackets, allowed it. I assume that it's going to take about 5 days to install the piles and the jacket. And we expect that in another trip to take about another 6 days to install the topside. And
maybe
and
just
again,
for clarity here, sorry to interrupt. So the jacket for the substation as well as the topside for the substation will not go to the marshalling harbor in Taiwan. It's only the suction bucket jackets, the 66 suction bucket jackets for the wind turbines. So the jacket and topside for the substation will go directly from Singapore, Indonesia, respectively, to the site and be installed there. So there will be some kind of transfer from, I would imagine, from Taiwan to the installation vessel offshore. I don't know how that is done usually in Taiwan, but eventually by a ship.
So that's why we have not included that under the marshalling yard in Taichung. We don't know how they're going to do it. However, they're going to do it. What we are concerned about is that we witness the loadout in Batam and in Singapore, and after that, that's it. The next time we'll see is when we are offshore in Taiwan installing the jacket and the topside.
So we will not be on board while transporting the different assets from the loadouts and to the site. So we'll witness the loadout, and then the next thing will be to witness the load in or the installation. So we'll not be on the ship all the way to Taiwan, basically.
Yes. So once it sails away, we don't sail with the vessel, because I've heard of some projects where the surveyor was required to sail with the vessel and be going to the deck to look at sea fastening every 12 hours. But that's not what we are doing here. We're not doing that. You issue your sailaway certificate and that's it. And you go. And that's why you see that it says it's 1 day. It doesn't include sailing with the vessel. Okay, so we've talked about the installation and how it's going to be installed. It's going to be installed by lifting. So there are trinions, I think, on the jacket. On the top sides, connect against there. Install. For the files, lift up end, deploy, start hammering, the usual things you do. So that's how it's going to be done in Taiwan offshore. So both of them, both the OSS and the SVJ, is all going to be installed by lifting. So to talk a bit more about the overview, in summary. So for the suction buckets, there's PTSC in Vantau, and that will attend 3 trips, as I said earlier, and that will go from Vantau, it will go to Taichung in Taiwan, and that transportation will be done by COSCO, Taichung, and then the loadout and maybe the discharge. So basically the handling of the units in Taichung. There'll be Mammoet Giants to support with all the operations related to that. And then when it's ready to go offshore, transported by Boskalis, the offshore sites, and they will install it. Of course, with the help of Framo to help with all the suction and installation of the suction buckets. Then HMC Herima will be responsible for the solution side. I forgot to include AGA here. Yeah. Forgive me, Rasmus. I just remembered I didn't include AGA here. AGA is the installation. Sorry?
No worries. It was just a suggestion to include the installation vessel basically in the slide
I
deck.
just remembered now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let's see. So AGA is the installation vessel. I'll just quickly see if I can find that somewhere. Okay. So let's do it like this. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Can you see
Yes.
the
Yes, we can.
the AGA? Can you see the AGA, the vessel, the new window?
Yes. Yeah. Now we can't anymore. Now you stopped sharing.
Okay, so
Yes.
so that's the
We see
AGA,
it now.
and that's some sort of similar to what we're going to be doing. So basically, this is essentially what we're going to be doing. Suction buckets and install. So we probably have done this many times. Yeah. So our surveyor is going to be on this vessel, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because we can't be on the other construction vessel anyway.
Yeah.
So hopefully the news will be nice and the cabins will be nice, hopefully. Adam, have you been on this vessel before? Sorry,
Yeah,
I can't hear
muted.
you.
I'm mute now. You can hear me, I think. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. I was participating in Changhua 1 and 2A, and I spent quite a long time due to the perturbances with the Taiwanese government to disembark the crew, and yeah, there was many weeks on board. Vessel is very good, so they have a lot of. Is very capable to make this job. Yeah, then it will be good. Yeah, a good vessel. Mm-hmm.
Good. We have
That's good.
some colleagues who are familiar with the vessel as well. Yeah.
I've been
Oh
on
yes.
I've been on a vessel where the vessel was so bad that the bathroom in the cabins were rusted, and the water
Oh.
from the shower was running
Oh,
into
no.
the cabin when you have the shower.
Oh no, there is
So-
the vessel is nice, and it's okay. So then I can. Yeah, I was happy to work there, and it was nice to go to be there and to cooperate with HMC. So the guys, they know the job, and they are yeah. They have already experience, and also in Taiwanese water, what is quite important due to some, let's say, individual circumstances, what can happen as a marine environment. Yes, and they know very well. So and as yeah, I'm also participating in HAZIT meeting for this suction bucket jackets and for OSS. So they are predicting a lot of items, and they want to fix it, and they want to already prepare the good approach and to make a safe and good quick job. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you very much. So yeah, that's generally what's going to happen. And then of course there's a loadout in Batam, but this is just general details. You don't need to bother yourself too much. There's the grouting operation. We'll talk about that later. So what exactly are we going to be doing? It's essentially going to be similar across all the items, the OSS and SPJs with some slight differences. we might not have the time to go through every single bit of this, but I will send these slides to you and then you can have a look. But as I explained earlier, the way to just summarize it is we're looking at things that affect the structural integrity of these our assets. So looking at the lifting, how they are handled, and if C fastening is going to be welded onto the structure, we check that it's not impacting the structure itself, and then we identify any non-conformity. So basically, these are some of the things I've explained earlier, but I've just summarized it here. For the installation, again, it's the same thing, how it's handled. The important thing here is the grouting, grouted connections to the jacket pile, grouting. I have a separate slide that goes into details of what we check in the grouting. But yeah, just make sure that the grout is as per design and is applied as per procedure and all that sort of thing. And then for the as built, of course, one of the major things there is the cured strength of the grout, 28-day strength. I've seen in some places they send you report 7-day strength, a 14-day strength, and then finally 21-day and finally 28-day strength. So, of course, this is for the as built. You won't be there 28 days. It's probably not going to be tested there anyway, so you might not need to bother yourself too much. But these are some of the things that we look out for. For the SBG, essentially the same thing. We just look out for how it's handled during the loadout, lifting, and identify any non-conformities. The other thing we need to be careful about is weather conditions, but I've not spoken about that so much because I know that that's normal part of MWS anyway. But it's also one of those things the enable certification will look out for, because it will affect the integrity of the structure if it's not done. For the installation of the SBGs is similar. The only difference is, okay, this is suction, well, pile now, but bucket. So we need to be careful about the suction applied. Maximum suction, because if the suction is too much, it might affect the integrity of the suction bucket. There's a maximum suction that is designed for. We need to be careful that that's not breached. And then, of course, there's the corrosion protection system, so all that is done. If there are any deviations, we need to know. Yeah.
So
and then there's
Adam,
a wind turbine.
Sorry to interrupt. Adam has his
Yes,
hand raised.
I have the question. So because I have seen one slide before, it was about the weather issue. So I know very well. So having the MWS experience that we have this tool, what is the COA, that we can stop everything if the weather is not good enough. How it is with this certification surveillance? So can we do something, or we are only the cold witness, let's say? So what, as a certification body, can we do something? Because MWS can do something, but I don't know how it is a certification. And as well with then it will be already, I recognize it. So for the installation of the suction bucket, they are not as usual as any other jackets, so it's a little slightly different. And stabbing, leveling and positioning of these jackets are more, let's say, sensual. And the A-gear will shut down one thruster and the second one will be fixed in one direction. So there is a lot of the let's say, okay, the weather must be really good for that, and I expect that it can be the point of discussion with the subcontractor and the client on site, especially by the marine warranty surveyor. So because then if the weather will be, weather must be really good, so it will be not really big frame to work with. So it's how it is for the certification. So if somebody can say.
Yeah, so in the procedures that we have also reviewed, there are